So Deltarune Chapters 3 and 4 are finally out, and I want to talk about the ending to Chapter 4. Now, I'm just going to jump right into this. I'm not going to bother explaining what happens or what Deltarune is. If you clicked on this video, you should already have played Chapters 3 and 4, and if you haven't, then why are you here? I also just don't really like covering video games that much because I'm really not a gamer. Deltarune's the exception. During the freaky final fight against the fearful fiend, Susie does her best Godzilla impression and slam dunks it into oblivion. After trying to find Gerson, she stumbles into the prophecy room, and despite all Ralsei's efforts, sees a part of the prophecy she wasn't supposed to. Susie is so enraged that she punches the glass, shattering it before you or Chris can see what it was. But Susie isn't even upset. If anything, she's confident that they can change the prophecy. She reassures Ralsei and Chris that there's no way they could ever let that happen, whatever that is. Clearly, Susie is in denial. So much in denial that she refuses to even, accept that this is a possibility. That's how bad it is. But what exactly did she see? Well, I have two theories on it. We're told by the prophecy that love finds its way into the heart of the second hero, who we know is Susie. That's odd. The term love sounds awfully familiar. Oh, of course, how could I forget level of violence? And honestly, I think it's a double meaning. I think when the prophecy says love finds its way to her heart, it's actually both versions of love. And the cool part is, I think both of my theories work with this interpretation. It's implied that Susie has a rough home life and doesn't really get along with the other kids at school, giving her the reputation of the big bad bully. Her arc throughout the game, especially Chapter 1, is learning to open up and be more vulnerable around her friends. She grows to care for her friends and feel accepted by them, a form of love. Taking this a step further, she is starting to find romantic love as well. Now, it is Noelle that's interested in Susie and not the other way around, but I still wouldn't rule out Susie falling in love with Noelle. Susie doesn't want to be seen as a monster. She doesn't want to lose all these friends she made, but what if she had to? What if it was her destiny written in the prophecy? My belief is that in some future chapter, Susie will suffer a devastating blow and begin to regress back to her old self, or maybe even worse than her old self. Susie will snap and go on a blind rage, killing one or more person. Now, there are two candidates for who I think Susie may kill, and starting with the least likely one, Noelle. The strongest proof for this theory would be Noelle's role in the Snowgrave route. She is seemingly becoming corrupted by the soul and turned into another vessel like Chris. Maybe Susie doesn't kill her out of rage, but out of mercy. Now, this wasn't me, but others have pointed out that the way the prophecy is worded, it seems like there's a fourth person, a second girl involved, so it could mean that Noelle, yes, is important to the prophecy, just not one of the three heroes. But most of this information is still canon to just the Snowgrave timeline, and I know there's only supposed to be one ending to Deltarune. I still think there's going to be two separate stories just with the same ending. Outside of that, the only other real connection Noelle has to the prophecy is the fact that the night is probably a holiday. I'm gonna go out on a whim and say the night is actually Noelle, but not like Noelle, like she's under some kind of mind control or something. It's a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde situation where Noelle is sleepwalking and that's when she becomes the Night. That's why she doesn't know anything that's going on. Now that I think about it, that does kind of make sense. They give the Knight a baseball bat, alluding to Des, but also the baseball bat turns to a katana, which could be Carol, and then you might also think, oh, well, maybe it's Rudy because he's the last one left that's, plausible. It's trying to get you to think that any of the holidays could be the Knight except for Noelle, and I think that's why Noelle is such an obvious choice. But that's all just me yapping. The real biggest piece of evidence is that Susie and Noelle are going to fall in love, and it would be more sad if Susie had to kill Noelle. I don't think this is that plausible. The actual person that I think Susie is going to kill is Chris. Before we move away from Noelle, there is a different theory that she is the actual monster in the prophecy and that Susie isn't in the prophecy at all. I don't like this theory because it's dumb and stupid and I hate it. Way back when Chapter 2 ended, there was a big theory that Chris was the knight since they were seen opening a dark fountain, and I was a big believer in this theory, and I have since eaten my words, regurgitated them, and eaten them again. But funnily enough, this theory turned out to actually kinda be true, since throughout chapters 3 and 4, we are drip-fed hints that Chris actually is in league with the Knight. The exact reason for why is unknown, but perhaps Chris knows something that we don't, or believes that the Knight's cause is more just than we think. There's a meme in the fandom of Asgore running over Des with his car, and the whole joke is that Asgore is a crazy child murderer and Des is a deer so she'd get hit. But the funny part is, this actually could be what the story is, though. If Asgore had killed Des by accident, that would explain why he left the police and divorced Toriel. And now Asgore, Chris, Carol, and air quotes the Knight, whoever they are all working together to use Dark Fountains to resurrect Des, the same way Gerson was brought back. The prophecy also mentions an angel's heaven being banished away during the roaring. What if it's heaven in the literal sense, a gateway into the afterlife, and the angel is Des? One of the major themes in Deltarune is escapism, so you have to ask the question, when does escapism go too far? When does it start to become unhealthy? In Chapter 3, Susie has to come to terms with the fact that Ralsei technically isn't real. Him and all the other Darkners can never enter the Light World because, at the end of the day, they are just pretend. Imagination and creativity are important, but fantasy should never get in the way of your real-world relationships. Carol, despite seeming cold and unforgiving, actually cares about Des and is devastated by her loss, but at the same time refuses to accept it, refuses to accept the reality that Des is gone. So the Let's Resurrect Des fan club is basically trying to exploit the dark magic, in other words, imagination, to find a way to bring Des back. They're messing with forces they don't understand, and in doing so, will lead to the roaring, which ends the world. So what I think will happen is after the big final climax, you defeat the Knight, you defeat the Titans, whatever, the roaring is like on the brink of happening, just one more dark fountain is needed to destroy everything, and Chris refuses to give up. Chris still thinks that they can save Des. And so Susie is given the heart-wrenching decision of having to kill Chris to stop them from opening the last dark fountain. Susie has to choose, accept reality and kill Chris, or refuse reality and let the world be destroyed. Think about when Susie reassures each member of the team that this could never happen. She's certain she would never turn on the group ever again. Even if she did, Chris would find some way to win her back. And if all else fails, Ralsei, the moral compass of the team, would never let them harm each other. But what about the Tale of Hell, you may ask? How does that factor into all this? Well, clearly, those are some anal beads, so duh. But that's about all the evidence I have without bordering from theory territory to fanfic territory, and I sure as hell ain't doing that. Do you agree with my theory? Is there any evidence you have to better support mine, or even to debunk mine? What are your theories on the future of Deltarune? You could leave your thoughts in the comment section down below, or you could not do that. Look, there's only so many ways you can ask somebody to comment down below, and sooner or later you're gonna run out of things to ask them. So you know what, I'm gonna take a step back and I'm gonna think of new ways to tell people to comment. Or you know what, maybe I don't even have to. Maybe you can figure that out on your own. You're a grown-up, you can type your own comments, whatever. Until then, this has been Bradwurst, signing off. Hey dude, can you cover Rain World? Yeah, I'd love to cover rain. Wait a minute. That's not a video game, is it? Yeah. What do you have against video games? Literally everything. They're so long and boring and they require so much effort. It's a game. Sometimes games are challenging. That's what makes it fun. Get it through your cheesecake shaped skull. I am lazy. Sorry, you didn't know it was that much of a chore for you. Yes, thank you. Well, if you don't want to play them, you can still get into the story. There are Let's Plays, walkthroughs, you can watch those. So you want me to cheat? That's it? You want me to be spoon-fed all the information instead of actually working to earn it? God, what are you gonna tell me next? Rob the first fucking Bank of America? Oh my god, you're such an idiot. Hey, one thing we can both agree on? At least we're not sports fans. Fuck you.